Yeah. I hear a lot of fighters, they say that when they're in their hometown, they say it's lovely, but it's actually a bit of a ball ache because everyone's hitting you up for tickets and wants to meet you every night and so on and so forth. So yeah, I can imagine. So
well, they don't realise this is our job and this is what we really want to. We hang with the team and we just do everything with the team. So we try, when we eat, we all try and eat together. We all, if we're going to go down here, we all go together. You don't miss the weight cut. Everyone's got to get up and everyone's got to be there for the weight cut. We do everything together, so, and that's the way we've always done it. You know what I mean? It's the way all our teams, whether we're there with Izzy or whether we were whatever, if I go with Izzy and it's Izzy's turn, we all get up and we all do the weight cut with him. You know what I mean?
It's like clockwork after a while as well.
Yeah, right? It's just the way we do it. We're a team. We hang with the team.
People think it's a little bit of a holiday. Oh, you're going to Perth. Oh, we'll go for dinner in Australia. It's okay. We'll call it the evening.
Yeah, we do go out for dinner, but we go out as a team. Alex probably, guys will bring him down his food, or he'll just sit there and eat beforehand, or he'll eat after we'll eat. But we'll all go out together. We'll, we get up, we decide, we've got our little WhatsApp group, tomorrow at 9 o'clock we're training, doing this at 10, we're doing that,
I think sometimes as well people forget quite how much energy that all takes. Seeing people they haven't seen for a while and friends and family and even just meeting friends of friends and stuff, right? There's a lot of just energy around the event and you probably don't really need.
The after party was enough for me.
Was you there all night?
Well, no, I left early. Because I had to corner one of the second fight of the night, of the morning it was.
Was it Jamie? Did you corner Jamie?
I cornered Jamie and also cornered Shane Young. And he was the second fight and we had to be at the arena at 4:30 in the morning. So
you was there for a long day, right?
It was a long day. Yeah. And then we had like an after party and it was just for the first 2 hours, it was just invites only, and it was just put on for everyone. And like I was saying to the guys, if another person comes up to me and says, what do I think of the results, I'm going to hit them. And while I'm saying it, someone will come up, oh, Joe, what do you think of the results? And everyone just look at me,
In your head, you're thinking, if it's me personally, I'm going up. And probably the last thing I'm talking about is the fight. Do you know what I mean? do you fancy a drink or something? The last thing you want to be talking about after spending the last 4 months thinking of nothing else is probably about. What did we'll get into it in a second, but I'm just quite intrigued anyway. Without obviously going into too much detail, what did the camp look like preparing for it? Because obviously I know that you obviously had Craig here, and there was a ton of preparation, right? I can imagine that you're quite methodical with the process.
Yeah, well, we started earlier than normal, because we had that Christmas break, and Alex had already had a holiday booked to go to Thailand, to Bangtao. Alex and I both got shares in the gym, and I was going to go with him, but the airfares were fucking. It's going to cost me 10 grand for 10 days, and I just went, so I'm renovating my house, and I went, I'll just I'll buy something extra from my house, So, where I could go now, and it'll cost me to take my family over, it'll probably cost me 4 or 5 grand, you know what I mean, for 2 weeks. But the airfares were through the roof because it's just that holiday time.
Peak season, right?
Yeah. And so I didn't go, and then Alex was going to cancel when the fight got announced. And I said, no, just go because, Frank's there and everyone's there. So he went there just after Christmas. And, after 4 days, he was fucking ringing me going, I want to come home now,
Jumping at the bit.
Yeah, he wanted to get into it, and it wasn't the same. We've got like a pretty good routine that we do here. And his physios here, strength and conditioning. Years ago, it probably would have been, we would have looked forward to it, where now we look forward to doing our camp here. We just got a really, really good system. And and then he came back, and then Craig came. Craig brought a couple of guys from America, and I was just bringing different guys in. We had judo guys, different sambo guys. I was just bringing in different wrestlers for different looks, where normally we bring in, like this camp, we're going to fight Yari. I'm going to bring in some Taekwondo guys that have done kickboxing to get that thing, to get just different looks so nothing surprises you, because everyone, I guess, it's like your body language. So when they throw kicks, if you get used to the kick coming, you get a better read early, not getting there on the fight and going, Now, Taekwondo guys throw a bit different than the Muay Thai guys do, and they throw different. Karate guy, that even though Yari has developed his game a lot, I think he's more of a watching his fights over the years. He's developed. Before he was what would you call him, a pretty dynamic striker, where now I think he's a lot better, complete more martial artist than he ever has been,
When you have a look at Rodriguez, he's a difficult fighter to prepare for, right? Because he throws a lot of unauthentic stuff. He's difficult off his back. He's got tricky jiu-jitsu. He really is a problem really anywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you have a look at him, what do you think are sort of the main things you've got to be cautious for, the main things that you have to prepare for, would you say?
You just can't give him room. You really can't let him stay in that kicking range because he's very, very quick at throwing the kicks out, He's quick. He's got quick counters. So you leg kick him, you've got to be ready that he's going to leg kick you back. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, he's a very dynamic guy. And like I said, to what he was, say, Frankie Edgar.
Yeah.
Frankie, and then he went away for 2 years. We never seen or heard from. He came back as a better martial artist, And I always say the thing is he turned Max into a wrestler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Max usually loves to stand and bang, and he found it really hard because they're both very tall, rangy guys, and every time Max threw something, he was prepared to wear one and give two back. You know. And just throw things out of anywhere,
That's the difficult thing, I think, with Rodriguez as well, is he also carries that sort of Mexican chin with him where he's happy to stand in the pocket a little bit to let his offense go, right?
Yeah.
So it does make him a tricky thing. Well, anyway, the question I want to sort of start with is, we know that you're not one of those coaches that typically loves the limelight. There's not too much about you online, but I know that you've got quite an extensive mixed martial arts background. Goes back quite a few years now.
Yeah.
I just want you to highlight a little bit of where you sort of started and the journey, just briefly, of how you got to this point of where you are now, really.
Well, I started with the traditional martial arts. I started with Taekwondo because I was probably 17 years old and I surfed, and all the boys up the beach went down and did this at the local hall. There was Taekwondo, and they said, "Oh, this is it," And we all went down and we used to kick the shit out of each other. And back in those days, it's not like today where you've got internet and you've got YouTube and all these things learning based. You didn't have it, And I remember once I got my black belt in Taekwondo, you got to know a few guys around the neighborhood who, this guy did Kyokushin karate, this guy did kung fu, and we used to rent a little hall ourselves, and once or twice a week we'd get down there and we exchange ideas on. Because being from Taekwondo, I remember sparring with this guy who had, did Kyokushin Kai, and he was leg kicking the shit out of me, And I was hitting him with these big side kicks and, these tricky, question mark kicks. And the next day we came back all battered and bruised, and I remember saying, "Man, my legs, how do you stop it?" And he showed me how to check. And then I kept hitting him with side kicks because the Kyokushin Kai guys used to be very square on, and I said, you're very square on. It's really easy to hit me with a side kick.
Yeah.
And we just exchanged ideas, and we started that was the start of us learning a bit of mixed martial arts. And, then we started had a judo guy that used to come down who wanted to learn how to kick and punch. And I did judo as a kid, but, that time as a young man growing up, I wanted to learn more. But mats were really hard to come by unless you went to a judo club or something like that. There was no mats. It's not like today, punching bags are really hard to come by. You had to buy they used to have to import them from America, and we used to just make homemade punching bags out of old duffer bags, fill them up with rags and everything else because they were just so expensive,
I guess that, in essence, that's a true martial art, right? It's meeting other people with different disciplines and just sort of exchanging ideas and to sort of go to where you are. When you started back then, you really started with, like you said, there was no internet, there was no real idea of the sport or scale of it. Did you have any idea at all that you was potentially going to get to the top of the sport, whether it was as an athlete or whether as a coach or just anything like that at all? Or was it just went with the flow, really?
I just went with the flow. Like, you always got, I guess, you think about it and you get into it. But I had, how can I say? I've always been a person. I'm not so much about the destination. I'm about the journey, and a lot of things came along. I ended up, because I could fight, I was a small guy, because back in those days, all the security guards were all over 100 kilos, and they were all big men, and there was little me, but I was never a guy to hit people, and I can still, after 40 years in the industry, I can still count on one hand how many people I've lost my cool and had to hit, and again, it was nothing I'm proud of. I've had to defend myself, obviously, over the years, but I've probably lost my cool, because I never was, and to this day, I hate bullies, and I never want to bully anyone or be an idiot to anybody, So I've always talked to people with respect, and then if you don't talk to me with respect and do anything, well, then you've given me that avenue. But I've always wanted to grab people, so I've done Hapkido, and I learned a lot of wrist locks and all that at an early age, or early for me now, but when I was in my early 20s, and that really helped me with doing the security and controlling people without having to be one of these guys who used to hit first and ask questions later, And, like I said, that in myself, that was like my journey, where I did so much and I did everything. I traveled the world in search of knowledge, when I was in 1988, I wanted to expand my knowledge, and I heard about Muay Thai, so I traveled to Thailand. I went there, lived there, trained there to pick it up, and I was always searching for the next best thing.
If I'm not mistaken, that's something a lot of people don't know about you. You used to be a bodyguard, right?
Yeah, I've done it. Yeah.
Was it? It was for sort of the higher celebrities, was it?
Look, I did. A couple of the clubs and nightclubs and that used to get a lot of the bands and everything else in, and so you'd have to look after people, and then after a while, people get to know who you are, and then they know that you're switched on and you can do the job, so they put you off on the side. I looked after a couple of sporting people, and just
You're gonna name drop a couple, Joe?
Look, I mean, it's me on that one. No, look, a lot of the stuff I'd look after, like jewelers, or businessmen. A lot of that was that were the main thing, But I've looked after, from back in the 80s when the bands used to come in. A lot of them would come and play at this club where I ran the security. It was I think 2,000 or 1,500,000 capacity nightclub. So it was really big, and nearly every band or whatever at that time, from Meatloaf to the Beastie Boys to you name the band that was going to start a tour, they'd always started at this particular place. Number one, they used to always tell me the acoustics was really good, and it was like their tune-up before they start playing the bigger gigs and get their act together. So, like I said, I was lucky that I was there and I ran the security, and I got to meet and do a lot of things, for 10 years while I was the head of security at that nightclub.
Obviously, it's quite well documented, Alex's journey started quite late, well, actually very late. If you have a look at people now, literally grown up into the sport at 8 years of age, and he came into it. I know that he came into the gym one day. I'm just interested to sort of hear your first impression, and when, or even if, there was a sort of turning point where you thought, you know what, he could actually potentially go to the top of the sport, or he could be something quite special.
Well, look, Alex, when he first came here, he just came here to get sick. He was a footballer. He'd come here once before. One of the other boys told me, he's coming, I've got a few guys coming in, and he was one of the guys that was coming in, and he was always a really, I could say, and he still is, a really nice, respectful young man, and I couldn't say a bad thing about him, he was, and he was built like a brick shithouse, he was, this wide and this high, so he was nearly as wide as he was high, and you could see he was a really powerful man. The first time I noticed that he had some sort of skill was, and it was probably around February, I think, March, we had an open we had a seminar here, and then after that, we had an open sparring session. So we had guys from all other gyms, and what happened was that I had a heavyweight guy. He had a couple of fights, and there was this local guy around here that had five fights, no losses, and he was supposed to be the next best thing, you know. And I remember I was standing up on that top step there, gloving my boy up, and Alex was already gloved up, and the cage was there, and he just put Alex in with this guy. I remember jumping off the step, running down, but that already started, and I just went, oh no, you know, this is Alex's first spar. You know, he'd come in and trained a bit, but it was his actual, literally first spar. Next minute, he submitted the guy. He submitted him 2 or 3 times through that round, and just thought to myself, wow, this kid's got a bit of ability, you know. And after the spar and everything was done, I just asked him, I said, you interested in having a fight? And he said, yeah, I am. It's always been a dream of mine to have a fight. You know, and then I can't remember whether it was 6 months, 4 months, whatever. I said, look, I'll get you a fight. And after that, you know, everything's...
rest is history.
Yeah.
Rest is history. When I know this sport is a crazy unpredictable place, and you can never even really tell what's going to happen next month, let alone sort of 2 years. But as you sort of 33 now, coming towards the sort of latter end of his career that he's had multiple times, is there a ideal scenario of what the next maybe 24 months looks like, maybe in the sport?
Look, to me, and I've always said it, while he's hitting the number, we've got certain drills and certain things that we do. While he's still hitting those numbers, to me, he's in there and he's got a gas tank for days, and he's still sharp and everything else. He can go on. As soon as he starts dropping off, which, you know, Father Time's going to do that, well, then I'm going to say, Alex, it's time to... And look, he's not a stupid man. I think he'll know himself.
Yeah.
And, you know, he wants to be there. He's a real family man. Like I say here, if guys train with me, they realise I'm not into... My philosophy on fighting is, you know, I'm not... I didn't invent it, but it's, you know, you hit them where they can't hit you. And that's the way. I don't like guys taking big punishment. I'm not one of these guys or trainers that wants guys to, you know, take 3 punches to give 1, you know. I don't think it's very healthy, and I don't encourage it to anyone, you know. And some people are just too tough for their own wounds.
I think you're definitely right with that. Hit and don't get hit, right? That's the ultimate art. I think as well, you can sort of see that in the ethos of his just sort of his own style. Sort of brings me on to the last couple of things. There's so much at the moment in the ANZAC scenes. You got Australia, you got New Zealand. Why do you think that at the moment we're seeing such a surge of talent coming out of this region? Do you put it down to any one thing?
Look, I think it's always been here. All they needed was we just needed to grow, because we are so far away. At the beginning, I think we sort of missed out on the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu. The striking, we've always had good striking from the old K1 days to anything, you know, and we've always been a nation of fighters. And I think once we caught up and we understood, and it takes time to get that wrestling and the jiu-jitsu. And, you know, now we've got tons of black belts. Yeah. I remember we get a purple belt back in the day, and we just thought they were gods. Yeah. Where now we've got the people have done, you know, earned their stripes in wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and we don't need... I mean, it's good to go over because knowledge is power, but we've got enough good trainers and coaches here now, and that's all we needed, you know, where before you have to go overseas to get that sort of knowledge, and not everyone could do it. Where now from young age here, the kids are learning everything from a young age, so our generations just got better and better and better. And like I said, we're a nation of fighters. We love fighting. We're been probably one of the biggest supporters of the UFC from day dot, you know, and for a small nation, yeah, it just follows.
Yeah, cool. Last thing I want to end on, obviously we spoke about the scene, surgeon, and obviously there's a ton of talent I know just outside of the obvious names. Is there anyone that you want to put on camera now that we should look out for the next couple of years?
From my gym?
From your gym, from locals, from others?
Look, I've got a couple of young guys and girls that are here that are probably going to get in, you know. I've got young Colby here, Colby Thickness. He's been with me since he was a little kid. Yeah, he's been one of Alex's, you know, training partners for a while there, you know, especially when, you know, when we had the lockdowns and we didn't have any he didn't have anybody to train with, and he's been here and he's got the same work ethics and the same principles as Alex. So I can really see something, in getting there and moving ahead with it.
Nice. I know that he had a recent win as well recently, didn't he?
Yeah.
I messaged him following each other on Instagram. I messaged him. I was like, "Oh, you're gonna be at the session today?" He's like, "I don't miss any sessions." I was like, "Yeah, that's a good vibe."
Well, he is. He might have an injury, and I'll say, have a couple of days off, and his couple of days off is to run 10Ks, do some weights, and do this. I said, go and rest.
Chill out.
Yeah.
Right, Joe, absolute pleasure, mate. Really appreciate your time as always. And just before we leave, just well done on the brilliant job that you've done here and also promoting the scene, not only here, but in New Zealand as well, over with CK Boxing. So,
thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.